Good morning, everybody. This is Tiger, and today I've got Jessica Grieco, right?
Yes,
Okay, good.
you're okay. I know that this is going to get cut out. It's fine.
No, so for the podcast, I'll just basically put the whole thing on,
Yeah.
and then I'll just break down the other bits. Um, so how's life treating you lately?
I mean, to be honest, things are going well. I have a job that maybe it's not my first choice of something to do, but I'm doing well at it. I like the people I work with. That's going well. I just had an interview for another job that actually pays pretty well, and it's a company that's definitely growing. I have a car again. I have my license again. Graduated a reentry class. Went to the state house for House Bill 29. So, I mean, in 3 months, I've gotten a lot done. And I'm happy with my progress.
So tell me, you said a reentry class. What?
Okay, so whenever you get out of prison, most counties, not all, have a reentry program. So, what they do is they give you resources. They put you in touch with people that can expunge things off your record if, it's something that can be expunged. They help you with the ins and outs of, um, you know, insurance. If you need free insurance for a little bit to get on your feet, things like that. So those resources, they have people come and talk to you from, a bank about managing money. They do a test. I want to say it's similar to an aptitude test, but it's like an aptitude test on steroids, and it really breaks down your skills as a person and the things you're good at and what you bring out in other people in a work environment. So some of it's in depth, some of it is just, resources, but it also helps you get used to just being somewhere every day, you know, and doing certain things. And because some people went to prison for 20 plus years. And yes, you have to work a job in prison, but, you know, it's just getting them used to doing things like that again while they're on the street, while they're finally home.
How long was the class?
It's only like a month. It's not a super long class. You know, you can take that class and then do a workforce training class after that, things like that. I'm choosing to do peer support for the state, like those classes. So I'll be a licensed peer counselor for the state of Ohio in the future, well, nearer future. So that'll be good.
Okay, well that's a good start here,
Yeah.
and so I know I've met a lot of people, and not everybody's release has um, went that smooth. Job finding jobs can be very difficult, and so I wanted to go back and um, I understand with everything that happened, you don't want to say the guy's name, and I'm cool with that. Um, so what was your relationship to this person, leading up to this? What?
Okay, so we had known each other and we were dating. We were a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got, I mean, just were you seeing each other at the time, or was this just in and out?
We were seeing each other at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what walk me through what so this night, you know, things happen, and what can you tell me about what actually happened that night?
I was gone from like 8 a.m. until about 5:30 p.m. Um, and I have the search warrant where they pinged my phone location from that day and the whole week before. Um, Something I guess happened while I was gone, because someone that I know and I had actually talked to him on speakerphone at like 3:30, and he was fine. So for some reason after that, he apparently got to an argument with someone. That someone, I have no idea who it is. All I know is that the neighbor down the street said that he heard him arguing with someone while he was going to the bus stop to pick the kids up. And then on his way back with the kids to the house, he just saw him pull off in his car. So something happened that apparently was pretty serious. And, you know, I I wish I wish I knew what it was, but I wasn't there. So, I mean, I can't really comment on that. This person never came forward. Nobody knows who the hell it is. Through text messages, I just know through that evidence that he had been speaking with his one cousin about wanting to kill himself. Like, and it would have been nice if he would have actually like sent me a text message, like, "Hey, by the way, this is what's going on, and are you home or where are you at?" Or do you know what I mean? Like, it would have been nice if somebody could have given me like a heads up on that. Instead of just walking into that situation and just being caught off guard. I talked to this person at 3:30 and they were fine. So, that was a little abrupt.
Um, so when did you when did you get arrested?
Do up.
When did you get arrested? Or
I was arrested
they
that same day. They So I called 911. I signed a consent to search the house and the car. Willingly gave my DNA. I gave them my phone, the passcode to my phone, everything. So I didn't hide anything. I fully cooperated. I talked to police, and it was just crazy. Um, you know, they had the opportunity to swab my hands to be, extra sure because I mean, you took my DNA, but do you know what I mean? And that would have really helped a lot of things. Um, but I do know that some swabs were done, and I feel like it wasn't the answer that they wanted, or maybe that's why. And they were also supposed to search his car. And that was crazy too because they had all the text messages, where he clearly told me, "I'm buying a rope." And I'm just like, I I mean, I have the paper. So,
Hey, I'm gonna ask you to just I edit out all the language, so
oops, sorry. Well, that's what I actually said though. So like
yeah,
it's literally in
I
black and
understand.
white on the thing. I mean,
There's times on that, but yeah, it's just just I try to have a clean channel. That's all.
gotcha.
So
All right. Well, yeah, so I said, "Have you lost your mind?" Um and so I had been talked to by a bunch of different people. I was in the back of a cop car by the house, and after that they drove me to be interviewed, to be actually interviewed. The detective, the guy he was ridiculous. He was like, "I just want to get through this. We need to get through this." And that's actually in the transcript. I mean, the guy was just, I get that you have somewhere you need to be, but like, I felt like that was kind of important. You know what I mean? And maybe that should be, thoroughly taken care of. So I don't know if he was late for a date. I don't know what was going on, but it just, you know, anything they asked me to do, I did. All my clothes were taken as evidence. Pictures of me were taken. They're like, "There's no bruising." Well, of course there was no bruising. We weren't fighting, and that was the one thing that we literally weren't fighting, and that really made this like just so much crazier because I thought that what he was going through was like a right then thing. I didn't know that he had been struggling with depression for years. I didn't know that. And had I known some of the things that I found out, I wouldn't have dated him, and I would have just, you know, kept doing my own thing really. But he was, I mean, the thing is, he was a good person. Like, I'm not going to sit here and knock him as a person. Okay, he was a good person, but he had a lot of struggles that I was unaware of that he was going through.
So, like, I mean, how long? So, when they took you in, like, how long was your interrogation?
I mean, honestly, it wasn't super long. They, they did what they always do mostly, which I think they edit out for all the crime shows, but they leave you sitting for a minute and then they come in and they talk to you. So maybe I was sitting in that room, I don't know, maybe a couple hours. I mean, it wasn't like, some 8 hour thing. Um, it just, it was just crazy. So we talked and, they decided that they wanted to arrest me and, I was charged with murder actually, which was really crazy, but yeah, I was arrested for murder. Um, and that's a hard thing to go through because you're just sitting there like, the rest of my life is over, you know? And it's just the system just is sucks sometimes because it's easier when something like that happens. They're going to arrest somebody until they can sort out the evidence, and that's basically what it comes down to. So as they sorted out the evidence, my charge was lowered to a felony 3 reckless homicide charge, which is actually not a violent crime. It's it's considered a heedless indifference to a known risk is legally what reckless is. So, anytime somebody has a reckless charge, that's what they've determined. And so I guess his family got mad about that, which his family was never told that my DNA was excluded. So that added a whole nother layer to this that was very frustrating because the state was not being honest with his family. You know what I mean? Because at that time, when you say, hey, we're going to give it, we're going to lower it to a felony 3 reckless homicide, that would have been the time for the state to go, hey, we know that we arrested her for murder, but we're lowering it to this charge because her DNA was excluded. We still feel that, she should have called somebody. We still feel that she could have handled it better. So we're charging her with this. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's how it should have been handled.
You've said many times that your DNA was excluded.
So
What?
my DNA, my fingerprints were not found on the trigger guard, the slide, or the stock. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Because they swab all that and they check it for touch DNA, like DNA. Like when you touch something, you leave DNA. Okay. Now, if this was what was interesting, and this is something I found out through research, when there's a mixed profile present, it can be people that they know. Now, in some cases, it's people that they don't know, and a lot of people don't know how that happens. So if you go to a store, okay, say you go to the local Speedway, and you go to walk inside and you touch the handle, okay, it's actually possible for you to pick up other people's DNA, touch DNA. So then, say something happened and you were swabbed, it'll present a mixed profile. So sometimes, it's a mixed profile because there's other people involved in the crime. Sometimes it's a mixed profile because this person just touched something and picked up other people's DNA. Do you get you know what I mean? So
Right.
when I learned that, I thought that was pretty crazy. But there was no female DNA, touch DNA on the trigger, basically the parts of the gun that make it go off. Um, but here's the thing, and none of us knew this, but the gun was actually messed up. The gun was extremely messed up. Um, and someone had said that they were going to fix it, and unfortunately, what they did to unjam it, they disabled safety features on the gun. So when the slide lock mechanism is disabled on a gun, it can go off without a round being racked in the chamber. So in other words, it allows a gun to go off without the bullet having to be locked into place to go off first. So it can just go off. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the gun can just,
Right.
even if someone's not intending to do something, okay, because the slide lock is disabled, something can still happen. And I don't think people really, it's just so crazy. But the gun was really old. Um, and uh, the person, the person that did that to the gun, actually later admitted they knew they did that while I was in admissions in prison. They admitted that they knew that they did that, and I was I was floored because I was just like, oh my god, like I just got sentenced to 8 years in prison because you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Because you purposely disabled safety features on the gun, like you knew what you were doing, and you just said, you know, no big deal, and apparently it was a very big deal. Um, but yeah, that person still has never seen a day in jail. And what actually made this worse, and I believe added a layer to my abuse in prison, was the fact that this man, he's a retired sergeant from Lucasville. So this man was a white shirt in the Ohio prison system. So there's that too.
After you're done with your um, the interrogation part of this,
Yeah,
um, they you went
they
you were
took
just
me.
held in confinement.
Well, yeah, they sat me with people for a minute until they could collect my clothes as evidence. So, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really remember much of that part because I was in shock. Like, I'm sorry, but I was in shock. Some girl
Right,
that saw
right.
me later was like, I saw you when you came in, and she was like, no, like you definitely were not. So, but they sat me down, I guess, and then I waited for them to come get my clothes. They took all my clothes as evidence: my pants, my shirt, my tank top, all was placed into evidence. And then they gave me a county, set of pants and a shirt, which actually is similar to scrubs but way harsher material. Um, and then they put me in a cold cell. So, you know, away from people. So until they got a room, not a room, it's definitely not a room, a bunk situated upstairs, that's where I was at for a minute, was, down there.
And you ended
It
up
was like three
staying
days.
there. The did you ever get out
No,
leading?
no, actually, so after 3 days, I had my first court hearing, and my bond was set at $500,000. 50,000 cash or surety, and there I clearly didn't have that. So I stayed. I ended up staying in jail, and even though even though the evidence had kind of been gone through, and you know they knew what they knew, my attorney, my first attorney who I fired, got into it with the judge when he pointed out the fact that the signatures, oh well, on my no true bill and my indictment didn't match. This was like 4 months in. Um, they literally doubled my bond to $1 million cash. No 10%, no surety, because they were mad at what my lawyer was pointing out. So, yeah, it was just ridiculous. I mean, clearly I wasn't getting out on 500,000 with the 10%, but then you're just going to double it to $1 million cash. Like, okay, yeah. So unless somebody wins the Powerball, you're definitely not getting out of jail.
And so since from that day
I was
of
incarcerated from that day all forward for 8 years until
for eight
February 1st
years.
of this year. So from the day it happened, the night that it happened, to February 1st of this year, I was incarcerated.
So when you get so I've hired people along the way, just for day labor to help out. And a lot of Craigslist guys, they've for them it's difficult getting a job. So, when you got out,
Yeah.
right? When they released you, what I mean, so tell me when with we go, obviously you know that day is coming, right? So that day comes, and they come and they open your cell, and that this is your walk to freedom.
Yeah,
What explain that? Tell me that process when they
you
come.
you wake up. I woke up early that morning just to put a like just to kind of do my hair and stuff, because it was the first time I was really seeing anybody in 8 years. So and throughout what I wasn't taking with me because I just after everything I'd been through, I just so I did all that, and they say because I got out on a Saturday, which I guess is better than during the week. Um, so a CO comes and they walk you to the front basically because you're not allowed a certain point, you're not allowed certain places in when you're in prison, so you can't go past certain points. So they walk you to the front of the prison, up by the visiting hall and all that stuff, and there's a specific little what would I call it? Almost like a vestibule, but like a little building. Okay, and you have a lady that checks in visitors, and then they have you sign some paperwork. They give you, if you have any money on your account, they give it to you on either in a check form or on a debit card. And because I worked for a call center my last 6 months in prison, and it was the only 6 months they did it in the whole state, but I worked for that call center, so thank God I was able to pay off my restitution, and I didn't leave prison with a lot of money, but I left with like a little bit, which helped just get clothes and stuff because I literally had nothing. I had no clothes, I had no shoes, I had nothing but the sweatsuit they released me in out of prison in. So I waited. My one friend came and picked me up, and then I left. And it was really weird. It was the first time I'd been in a car since I was dropped off at prison. It was just the feeling that thank God I'm not in that situation anymore because I dealt with some pretty horrific abuse. My last three years in prison was horrible. It was a nightmare. Um, and just the comfort that I was not going to have to be living that on a daily basis was great. Um, and I just knew that I was going to do the best that I could to do the right thing. While I was in prison, I tried to make the best out of a bad situation. I worked jobs where I helped people, and I just knew that I was just gonna make the best of it, and that's what I've really worked hard to do.
So who picked you up when you got out?
It was my friend Steve. He dated a friend of mine for a long time, so just someone I knew. He dated her for a long time, and he was taking care of her son. So his son was having knee surgery like that Monday after I got out, so it helped me get on my feet, and it helped. I was able to help take care of him while he went through his surgery and healed up and stuff.
When I dropped some stuff off there a couple weeks ago, you were staying. How did you end up staying at that place?
Because that's where I was staying, where I was helping my friend out with their son, who just he had to have a bunch of ligaments and stuff grafted into his kneecap.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I was there, because it was like, okay, this is somewhere I can stay. Yeah, I'm crashing on a couch, but it's rent free for a few months, so I can get a job, save up some money, get a car, and you know what I mean. So, and that's what I did. I found a job, I saved up money, I went and got a car, and then I moved out.
Okay, all right. That I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense now. And so, how did you? So like at this point, you're working up by the mall there. How did you end up? How'd you get that job? What you have now?
I just had been applying to a few different places. I was fortunate that my desktop had crashed one time and I had to totally redo my resume. And so I never had to do that again because it's not the funnest thing. I had saved it on a thumb drive and it was in my purse. So they didn't give my friend Tiffany my purse. but they gave her, because it was name brand, so I'm sure somebody kept it, but everything that was in my purse they did give her. So I had my thumb drive, believe it or not, that still had my resume on it. And I was just like, all right, you know what I mean? This is great. So I updated it. I was able to update it pretty quick and just started sending it out for jobs. And, got an interview for the job that I'm working now. And I spoke with the lady that, was opening the store, and I'm glad that, they gave me a chance to show that I'm a hard worker, to show that I'll do a good job, and just to show that I show up, and I do what I'm supposed to do. And, I'm good with people. I'm good with customers. I genuinely like people. It's just, I don't like people probably quite as much as I used to, considering everything. But I didn't let all that like institutionalize me. Like everything I went through in prison, I did not let that permanently imprint on me. And that was one thing my friend said, like, you're still you, you're not institutionalized, like, you're good. So, like, I'm still really me. I did not let what all these people did to me take away who I am or make me a hateful person. Now, I can tell you right now, I hate the people that did that to me. And I hate that I feel that way. I feel so strongly. But the people that, the COs that had to do with that stuff and the inmates that had to do with it, I could care less for. I just couldn't care less. I just hate to say it, but like, I hope they're okay in life, but I never want to see them or deal with them ever again.
So when you were at so in the time in the interim from your arrest to your when when you decided that you're going to take a deal, where did you stay at in that time? Was it the county jail or
I was in the Montgomery County Jail, yeah, and that was crazy. It was crazy being in there for that long. I saw a lot of different things. Some stuff was funny. Some stuff really was pretty tragic. Um, just people saying crazy stuff while they're being sentenced or crazy stuff to the judge, and just some of the stories were interesting. But there was just a lot of not good things. You know, one girl like hung herself, but thank God like they were able to bring her back. Like the one CO, I wasn't a fan of the one CO, but I'll at least give her props for giving that girl CPR. I mean, she worked on her for a minute to get her breathing again. Um, Another girl just casually walked off the top tier and fell onto her head, which split open, and it was really disgusting. It was awful. Um, and this is, I didn't understand, I asked somebody how much time that girl had, and she said 90 days. And I said, what in the hell? Like, this girl only had 90 days and she just did that? Like, she literally sustained a traumatic brain injury from that. And I, I don't know. That I didn't understand. You know what I mean? How some people can take something like that so hard. You know what I mean? Because to me, I'm like, it's just 90 days. Like, you know what I mean? At that point, 90 days was nothing. So I really wasn't understanding. But um, it just, you don't, when you're incarcerated, you don't get the proper dental care, you don't get the proper medical care, because it just, they're so jaded. People that work in the prison system, most of them are so jaded, because you got people that, you know, they got some people they deal with that, I hate to say this, and this is going to piss some people off, but they're dope fiends on the street. And they don't care what they have to say. They don't care what they have to do. Do you know what I mean? So they are used to dealing with a lot of different people. So unfortunately, some people that, the people there that are like decent, sometimes you end up still getting treated like crap because of those people. And that's a little rough.
so at the county jail, um you get assigned a room and a roommate, or you
It's, so I was in what was called rollover my first 6 months. So basically, it's a few hallways of cells, and these are the old school clank 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 closing cells, okay? And it's not two man though. Some of them are four, some of them have eight. It's just bunk beds. The one I was in had 12 people. You know what I mean? So it had three bunk beds. But these, no, wait a minute, was it four? Because these were like two or three high. But the crappy thing about rollover is for count, you literally have to just kind of sit on this other side on these hard metal things for as long as they want you to sit there. So if they're pissed, or let's say somebody running their mouth acting like an idiot pissed them off that day, you could be over there for a while. Like I'm talking like hours. So it just jail is a horrible experience. I'm sorry, but anybody that thinks it's not is insane. It's a horrible experience. It's nothing that is going to be pleasant, or give you pleasant memories.
So what what's a typical day there like? I mean, what's your regimen there in the county?
I mean, you get woke up like five something in the morning for breakfast. So that was like, Cheerios or cornflakes with some kind of muffin ish, we'll say muffin esque, some kind of muffin esque thing. And it changed flavors every day. Um, just stuff like that. I mean, then, okay, so you go to, you have breakfast or whatever, they deliver the trays, you eat your breakfast, a trustee comes and collects them. And that was usually a male inmate. For some reason, the trustees were mostly males, which was, kind of annoying because, they're the ones that did most of the cooking and all that stuff. But, and then after that, I mean, you're really just sitting around for a minute. The nurse comes with a little med cart. I used to call it the druggy buggy. A little med cart. She'd wheel it over. People take meds, whatever. They take their meds. And you're just not doing much. Now, if there's a group going on or some kind of a class, you know what I mean? You can leave for that. They'll say, blah, 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 blah. If you're going to this class, go stand in the vestibule. Or if you're, and then you are escorted to go do that class or that group. When it's done, you're escorted back to, rollover at that point in time where you were living. Now, because somebody had filed a complaint saying that the female linear inmates were not being treated the same as the male inmates. Now, when you're a linear inmate, that means you are a longer term county inmate if you are linear, okay, because your stay is not broken up, right? Straight. So they moved us over to APOD, which was over on the men's side. They made men go to rollover and they had us go to APOD. So those were two-man cells, which there's nothing worse than being locked in a two-man cell with somebody that you don't like. Or somebody that is just going through all your stuff, or it can be rough. That can be rough. Now, if you have someone in your two-man cell that is cool, they're not bothering you, things like that, it's dealable. It's still not preferential because it's a tiny cell. You're stuck in there all day. You don't go outside in county. So I didn't go outside for almost 2 years. Okay. And they do this to people. The state's not dumb. Once they arrest you, if they let you go, they can get sued. They can get sued. So they're going to do whatever they can to not have that happen. They don't care what they have to do. They don't care. Trust me, they don't care. Okay? They will try to wait you out. Your attorney will come to you and say, oh, well, I really want to get a good defense for you and blah, blah, blah. Let's waive time. So normally where you got to go to trial within 90 days, which ends up being about 6 months, okay? With all the hearings and stuff, you know. So you should be going to trial within 6 months. But once they talk you into doing that, you're oh, it sucks. It's basically they can take as long as they want at that point, within reason. Well, it depends on what you consider reasonable, but so that's its own whole thing. Like I said, it's just not a pleasant experience. Yeah, I mean, hopefully you have groups and stuff. Um, like 1 to 3 days a week. It was supposed to be 3 days a week, but
So,
they only did
dear,
it
I
one day
mean,
a
like,
week.
so, like, after between
They
breakfast
would have rec,
and
which you would be
I
escorted
don't
to
know,
this
whatever.
gym, and you could play basketball, walk around, walk circles around the gym, whatever. That's another thing too. In county, they are not giving people the recreation they're supposed to be getting. And that was really frustrating too as a female inmate because they do it for the male inmates. But if you're a female inmate, I'm telling you, they don't care. You get treated like absolute garbage as a woman in the justice system, in the prison system, in the county incarcerated system. If you are a woman, you are treated like crap. I mean, the men, they have it so much easier. They do what they're supposed to do for them. You know what I mean? And then some. So it's very frustrating to be a woman in that system when it's a male centric system.
Hmm. But during the day, I mean, are you allowed to go in and out of your cell?
No,
It,
you are stuck. You're stuck. Like there's nowhere to go. You're in this tiny room. And really the only thing you have to do is watch TV, sleep, write somebody. That's about it. You don't have a lot of things. Now, if you have, and a lot of people don't know this, if you have a major case, okay, they will try to get certain people, they're called a criminal informants. So they will try to get people you are incarcerated with to, but they will try to ask you questions and try to get you to talk about your situation. They do some shady things in order to try to get a case. Um, I've just seen a lot of different things. They had actually, oh, this was what was crazy. So they had actually, my lawyer had said something to me one day, asking me if I would help the state. And I laughed at him. I laughed at him so hard it wasn't even funny. I am not going to help you put somebody in jail. I'm not doing it. Like, I don't care, bro. Like, I'm not, I don't, yeah, I don't care if it could have got me last time. I still wasn't doing it.
so during that time, how often were you in contact with your lawyer?
Your lawyer just kind of randomly shows up. Um, Sometimes they'll say, hey, I'll try to see you in 2 weeks. But then sometimes you don't know and they just show up and then, you hear what they have to say. And um, the one time I hadn't seen my lawyer in over a month and he showed up to show me that I was no true bill, but then indicted 2 hours later. But the signatures didn't match. It was supposed to be signed by the same person. It looked like two different people signed it. Um, Other times, your lawyer's there to talk to you about pleading, your defense. If we're gonna, but mostly they're trying to get you to plead out. You know what I mean? Their money. People need to stop being so blind and ignorant to what actually goes on in the system because people think the same thing that I thought. Oh, they would never do these things to somebody. If they get a case on somebody, well, then they have to be telling the truth. There has to be some kind. Okay, that's what I always thought until I went through my case. And once I actually got to see how the justice system works, I was like, oh my gosh. Because if everybody that watches this, look at your paycheck, look at your pay stub when you get it. Every paycheck you get, you are paying money as a prison tax. That money is going into the system that is doing all these crooked things. And if you have family that's in the system, they do all these crooked things, and you unfortunately are helping to pay for it. They misuse people's money. Oh man, it's awful the things that they do. They're getting paid to break more laws than the people that they're watching. And it's not cool. Like, people need to be aware of what's really going on and, stand up to get this changed so that it's more fair all the way around. Like, these lawyers are being paid with state tax money. You know what I'm saying? They're being paid by the state, because if you have a pro bono, not it's not a pro bono, but a court assigned attorney, it's not random. Now, when it comes to higher felonies, your judge is the one that appoints your lawyer. My lawyer came to me after I fired my first lawyer. My second lawyer straight up told me that the judge's bailiff called him to see if he would take my case because I was a difficult client. I wasn't a difficult client. I was calling you out on your BS, and I was standing up for myself. And I, as my lawyer, I was trying to make you fight for me. So at the end of the day, these people, you're one of so many cases that they have, and they don't care about you. They want you off of their caseload. Their money's coming from the state. They know where their money comes from. You know, they're not trying to help you. They want that plea. Like I said in my Supreme Court, when I asked the Supreme Court about how to take jurisdiction, 95, 96% of cases end in a plea. And they'll wait you out. This is why I did over 22 months in county, because they will wait you out to try to get you to plead. You know what I mean? They know that it sucks being in county. It's awful. You know what I mean? So I was extremely serious about going to trial, or I would not have been there that long. You know? So it's just one of those things. But it's definitely not, it's like a casino, okay? It's definitely not, nowhere is it fair, and it's stacked for the house to win.
So I guess, everybody's question, well, how's the food there? So at the county, how was the food? What?
It's horrible. It's awful. I mean, it's just, a lot of it is, especially in county, it's made to get weight on people, because a lot of people that are in and out of county are drug addicts. People that are shooting up heroin or other drugs. They're super skinny. Unfortunately, that food is very fattening. It's very carby. But it's not good. It's really not good. Um, it's disgusting. That's the only word I can put with it. It's disgusting. I'm sorry. Um, it just, oh my God,
No,
it's
it's
just, they got to save money. You know what I mean? There's all these people they're feeding. They got to make sure it's cheap, and it is what it is.
man.
And they want to
Okay.
make money off commissary, because now this is what's interesting. In my county, and in a lot of other counties, they're contracted with a company called Aramark.
Right.
Now,
Right.
that company, handles commissary, handles fresh faves, which are like, your family can spend like $20 or $25 and send you a burger and fries or something like that. It's, pretty high price for what it is, but it's still better than what they're normally feeding you. In prison, they are the ones that handle all of the food in the cafeteria at CFS. They are responsible for how the food is made, how it's prepared, sourcing the food, and so on. So that's also a publicly traded company, for people that don't know that. And I still feel like the prison gets kickbacks. They're getting some kind of benefit from it, even though I can't prove it. Um, I feel like the state is benefiting from that relationship in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? Whether, some of that money's being put into a fund if they get sued for doing the things that they know that they're doing. And then this way it's not put on the state, it's put on Aramark, you know, things like that. But only they can, that's just my theory. That's a theory.